So I have been doing a study in 2 Peter, and I have been learning a lot. I had written this down, but I wanted to actually read it, talk about it, and maybe read it, so I have something to kind of look off of what I've been learning as a guide. I had read a fantastic book. I would highly suggest it to anyone, especially kids. It's written by Dwight L. Moody and written in 1894, I believe, and he passed away in 1899. But it's revised, so it's in ways that we can understand it in our way of speaking, culturally wise. Definitely different than the these and thous, and however, I don't know, I had never read it in the original text, but I can only imagine the language being a lot different from original to how we speak now. And so it was teaching you how to study the Bible. And so I decided to, I used to love doing that. And then in the busyness of allowing myself to get busy, I lost the zest and the joy and the delight in reading the Word. Unfortunately, as much as I hate saying that, that's just me being honest as to where I was at. Spiritually, I was sound and firm in what I believe, and that never changed. And part of God's Word, well, when you read it, it stays in your spirit. And so it never left me, but I had gotten so worn out from just the going and the being and the doing for others that I had lost what was important to me, and kind of coming home, and the last thing in the world I wanted to do was actually open the Bible, because it's I've already got so much that was taken from me today that's just going to take one. My brain can't connect it, can't hold on to it, and I'm a silly girl because the Bible fills up, it does not take away. Yeah, and so excuse me, I would just go to Netflix or Amazon or whatever it was, and just fill my mind up with things that actually don't really matter at all. It's just a show. It's not even, for the most part, wasn't even realistic. And I get addicted to it, and then I would just binge watch on that, and then be all the good intentions that I had of when I would listen to a speaker speak, I'd be like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to read this, and I can't wait to be in the Word. And then I got home and sit on my couch, and unfortunately watched that until I decided I was going to fall asleep. And so I'm loving this time because it's allowing me to get back to the basics of things and how things were for me, and actually digging in and diving in. So I started reading 2 Peter and doing a study on that. And I wanted to kind of just encourage in this time, in this season of uncertainty, of this coronavirus, and all that it's completely halted. And it's some things aren't put on pause. Some businesses actually are having to close down permanently because of this and the uncertainty of where the money can come from, and just, you all know. But I wanted to read it, so 2 Peter 3:8-10, this is really encouraging, and I've heard this verse before multiple times, but it hits different. I love how you can read the same verse, but hits differently in whatever season you're in. And so in this season of uncertainty, I just wanted to say something of encouragement. So the verse says, nevertheless, do not let this one fact escape your notice, which is very important to hear that part, beloved, that with the Lord, one day is like 1,000, and then 1,000 is like a day. The Lord does not delay, as though he is unable to act, and is not slow to his promises, as some count as slowness, but is extraordinarily patient towards you, not wishing for any to perish, but for all to come to repentance. So I was thinking about that, and I was just like, oftentimes we can feel as if God is slow. He's either slow to act, slow to hear, slow to reply. Sometimes we question it. Does he even see us? Can he hear me? Does he actually even care about the situation? Sometimes I'll be like, hey, God, did you factor that in with what's going on? Did you see that? I fall privy to that. So due to the idea of what we may think is best, or how we go about getting what we want, how we want it, the way we want it, we can actually unintentionally diminish his heart for us because of this very small peephole that we see, which is life through our eyes. And it's really important to remember that peepholes actually distort. I don't know if some of you may have a peephole through your door that doesn't distort, but every door that I've ever had, when I would look through it, it distorts the person's figure. Their head's bigger, their body's smaller, or just whatever. And sometimes it's like, do I even know that person? Wookie. So that's important to remember. So the verse spoke to me in a brilliant way, even though, like I said, I've already been aware of the verse. But just realizing that God is actually, he's outside of time. He's the creator of space. He's the creator of time. He's the creator of the universe. He's the creator of our lives and our very breath. So, for one day to be like 1,000 to him and 1,000 to be like one day, it's broadening the spectrum that we see through that peephole of our eyes, and he sees the whole picture because he created the picture. So, just let your mind think about that for a second. And my grandma, she just turned 80. So, in 20 more years, she will be 100. And I was trying to explain this to her because I'm just like, it's like my mind's makes so loud. I can't hardly take it. But I was telling her, I'm like, Grandma, once you reach the age of 100, hope you're still living, but, to just imagine her living 900 more years, that is equivalent of how God sees our 24-hour day. I believe that Peter is using this analogy, a picture analogy, just for us to try and grasp God's infinite being, to try and grasp and he's so sweet by giving us words to parables and I love picture analogies. I love parables because I love painting a picture for me to fully grasp the whole picture. And so, like I was saying, it's almost impossible it is impossible to even imagine. So the God who is outside of time is trying to tell us, if you can imagine, just if you can somewhat grasp this idea that 1 24-hour day is like 1,000 to me. So, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I'm just like, whoa, every time I talk about it, it's still mind blowing. Okay. It's just the greatness and the grandeur of him. And, so he created the universe, clearly. He, Jesus, the Holy Spirit, they already knew way before even the creation of the universe and everything, that Jesus is going to come at a specific time, in a specific place, in that specific way, and die in that specific way. Horrific. We can't even fathom. We get to watch on the Passion of the Christ. I don't know how many minutes we get to see the flogging, but just imagine what was 7 hours we only got to see 7 minutes of, or something. Can't even. The disfiguration, all of the things. You weren't even able to know. The Bible says that he even was a man. He was so disfigured. So disfigured. Oh my gosh. So, just to think about that, if the end has already been written about, and all that the second coming is going to entail, Revelation's already... So, do you think for 1 second that this pandemic could slightly be out of his control? Absolutely not. to think that our lives beyond this pandemic and all the different facets and all of the the life in between what people know and then the life in between that people don't know. And I can struggle greatly with kind of like, I'll tell you all day long what's going on with me and in my life, but, or what has happened, but the vulnerability, the like, can you tell me how you really feel about that? And like my personality type's like, no, but tell me about you, because I want to hear that. I really want to hear that. But like, so what I don't tell people, even beyond what I even tell my journal, like he knows. And so Peter writes that he does not delay, almost as if he's being sarcastic when saying like, as if he was unable to act. Come on, he is just so sovereign over this, so sovereign over every single moment, every single millisecond of all of this happening. He is so patient. I mean, like I said, if you can imagine that kind of patience for one day to be something like 1,000 to him, he is not slow to act. He is very aware of this moment, has always been aware of this very moment. So that none would perish, he waits. But he doesn't wait as we assume he waits, and he doesn't wait as we wait. Because, again, the time spectrum is insane, the difference. And so what we're like, waiting in like 10 minutes, gotta be here in 10 minutes, he's like, oh, your 10 minutes, like not even close to comparing to 1,000 years. Like it's just, he waits. He's so patient. And so that because he doesn't want people to perish. So anyways, like I've said, we see from our limited perspective and we don't even know the depth of our own heart, which Jeremiah 17:9 says the heart is deceitful above all things and is extremely sick. Who can fully know its secret motives? So if we see through such limits and we don't even know the full motives of our own heart, but the God who is outside of time chose for his son to die for us, to save us from ourselves, and he has already overcome the world, reading a Revelation, and people will get really caught up, is this going to happen first? Is this going to happen first? When Revelation says this, like they're trying to figure out something that is too, like, you can break it down and you can think that you really fully grasp it, but the kingdom mystery is like so big that what we think we're so finite, we can't grasp it, but he knows. And that's like the most encouraging aspect of this. Oh my gosh. And so the God who's outside of time chose for his son to die, to save us from ourselves, already overcome the world. He's not shocked by what's happening. He's not shocked, but rather he is beckoning us to come into his arms, to come back into his arms, to face ourselves face to face, strip us of all the busyness, strip us of all the things that we use to define ourselves. And I will have a little story to say about my nails. And that's neither here nor there at this moment, but I will be saying something about that at some point, because of what I had put my identity into, no matter how small it was, I was starting to define me as those things. Instead of looking to him and saying, wow, you're the creator of me. How do you define me? I completely passed that, completely missed that. So I'm just so thankful for this stop, this halt, this pause. It's actually not even a pause, because when you pause something and you push play, it keeps going where it was at the rate it was going to go. But this is, this is like economically, circumstantially, it's just things are never, we're not on pause. We're actually at a stop. We're at a halt, completely stop. And when things start going again, it's going to be completely different. But that's the thing that I'm also saying, is even in that difference, God is fully in control and fully is aware. And my mind still just blows about the one day being like 1,000, because it's so exciting. I'm sorry, to think about, because it's also this like peace giving. So what happens today? What happens to, like, just think about how many years have you been alive? And I highly doubt that you've been alive 1,000, or even like remotely close to that. So our 124-hour day, he knew that if we're going to go about it in Peter's picture analogy, which also it was spoken about as well in Psalms, so Peter's almost like reiterating that. But if we're going by that, what happened today, 1,000 years ago, he already knew. If we're going by what Peter and the Psalms are saying in this picture analogy. So don't you think he kind of has this in his hands? So anyway, continuing forward, I also wanted to say that in the Bible, I read that there's like close to 9,000 promises in the Bible from God. And I can't even keep my own promise, especially when it comes to New Year's resolutions. I'm not going to lie. Didn't even do it this year. Didn't even have a resolution, because I'm like, have I really ever kept my own promise to myself that I'm going to really get into like exercising? I'm going to really start eating better and healthier. And then like week 3 goes by and it's like, what? Oh. Okay, that went by as fast as it came. And so I didn't. I didn't even do that because I just knew, I'm like, I can't even keep my own promises to myself. And yet we have a God who has over, like, close to and probably even over 9,000 promises. And he keeps all of them. All of them. His word is solid. It is a solid foundation that does not falter. It does not shake. It does not crumble. It does not break apart. It is solid. So, in light of all of that, I wanted to have like a little reminder. I don't know if you've ever sang the song from VBS or whatever. It's like, he's got the whole world in his hands. 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 And then it goes on and on and on. But it's like even the little kid song is like giving you a promise all the way up, all the way till you keep growing and you get older, and then you get older. And then even in the passing of lives, like he's got the whole world in his hands. I mean, yeah, it's just amazing. So I just wanted to give that encouragement, and I could have ended this writing with so many different verses, but I kind of just thought this one was applicable, clearly, and simple, and just a really neat reminder. So it's Isaiah 41:13, and it's, for I, the Lord your God, keep hold of your right hand. I am the Lord. I'm not, you know what I'm saying, who says to you, do not fear, I will help you. So, just wanted to share that. Maybe, I know it's kind of like a long, like 18 minutes, but, I just couldn't, I heard, and from Transformation Church, I heard a pastor say that, if somebody had the, cure for the coronavirus and you didn't share it with anybody, but you just kept it to yourself, that's actually like an act of terrorism. And so who are we to learn these things about God and about Jesus? And he gives these revelations, which is revealed truth, and enlightens our mind and our hearts on seeing this vastness of him and what he's saying and speaking to us in the hard, in the joyful times, in the sorrowful times. Who am I to keep this to myself, this excitement to myself? And so I don't want to have a spiritual act of terrorism and hoard it for my growth, but not also not get it out and share it to others. So I hope that was encouraging. And if you lasted this long, thanks. But I hope that what I've been able to learn was also extremely encouraging for your spirit and for your soul, for your mind. Just as a little reminder that he's got the whole world in his hands, and you, who he created, intricately fashioned and formed you, and knows you, deeply in a whole other way, I mean, who are you to think that he doesn't have you in his hands too?